Cheers.
Cheers. Welcome to A Pint with Seaniebee. The cheers you're hearing is an old-fashioned that my guest has just rustled up in his home in North London. I'm with a very interesting guest who I've never met. He is a guitarist, first and foremost. I'm not sure what his lead guitar, but he plays guitar for a band called Axes. And he's also a member of a really innovative up-and-coming ensemble band called Human Pyramids, who recently launched their second album to much acclaim called Home. We'll, as usual on these musician podcasts, have some of his music playing. He will introduce for us. And I'm welcoming now your name, Jeion Nejad.
Pretty close. Jeion.
Jeion
Nejad.
Jeion.
Jeion is like this hippie name from Iran. It's used in like Persian poetry, and they say like Jeion, which is kind of like sort of bold and brave, like fierce lion. Right. But the thing is, like, no one would be called Jeion. So when I speak to Iranians and I say my name's Jeion, they're like, "Oh, my cat's called Jeion," because it's like an ironic.
What would the English version of that then be? Be called Fluffy or something, or, you know?
Yeah, or tiger or lion or something like that. Yeah.
So your parents are Persian?
Dad's from Iran.
Okay.
Mum's English. He met her when he was training. He's a tax consultant, accountant. He came over here. And then had my sister, went back to Iran, and then the revolution kicked off.
Okay, mid-70s.
And that was just a real full-on thing, and he was kind of right on the forefront of that, and a lot of his friends got killed or got imprisoned, and including his brother, who my second name, Ali, named after him. And so they had to get the fuck out of Iran.
How does he see Iran now? Is he?
Well, I went back there with him. Got quite a lot of family in Tehran, and I went back there I went there for the first time about 4.5 years ago. There was like a load of crap. I couldn't go because of like military service, and then I think my dad was dragging his heels a bit because the country's obviously being taken over by fascists. But I said that I'm going. You can come with me if you want.
It keeps kind of threatening to get back to the way it was, doesn't it? It keeps wobbling like, no, sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's the crazy thing, because you've got a giant population of young people, so they're all pretty progressive and they don't want the status quo. And then you've got like the elected officials who are all up for a fairly democratic society. Yeah. And then you've got these kind of like mullah clergy who have the final veto.
With sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so it's crazy. So you go to the country, and it's just when I went there, it was just really upsetting, because all the people you meet are incredible, and you can really feel like the history and the culture, and just like how welcoming they all are. And then the street names have changed. You've got these crazy sermons belting out in the street to say right wing fundamentalist religious crap, and the economy's fucked and. But so every now and then little changes happen, and my cousin was saying that recently it feels like there has been quite a big change. I think the young population is just too much to deal with. They definitely don't have the manpower to constantly shut down every time some kids want to hang out and have a good time. So I think there's like a bit of a change coming. So
were you brought up in Islam quite?
No, not at all. No. So my dad's father was like a real fundamentalist Islamic guy. Right. So my dad in no way has any of. I was
going to say, just in case of the old fashions.
Oh, in case of the old fashions. That's why I said let's do the interview.
We get a fatwa on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said let's do the interview in England rather than in Tehran.
Jeyon's is non-alcoholic.
Actually, the first time I went out to Tehran, within about 8 hours, I found myself at an illegal party drinking vodka, doing a knee slide.
That's not good.
Along the floor. And it's obviously risk. You take the risk, but you get out there and there's just a thing that clicks in your head that's kind of like...
Careful now.
No, it was the opposite.
Really?
It was like...
Push the boat.
Yeah, it was just like I'm with my cousins, I'm in Tehran, they're being oppressed, and they're all just saying, fuck it, we're going to have a party tonight. And I was like, I get
it will be the young people, because there is that versus Iraq and places like that. There's a sort of richness to. I mean, it was amazing. Apparently, in the 60s and 70s, it was like Paris. It was like
And so this is the heartbreaking thing, and I think like when I talk to some people about that stuff, like I think what people don't get is that, yeah, it was really amazing, exactly like you say, like really cultural and kind of like Paris. But then you just had this like Shah who was in place via the US, who was just a despot, and people were, if you sort of showed any sort of dissent, you just get locked up or killed. That's the regime that my father and his friends were like fighting against. But they all feel so shit now because they're like, oh my god, what replaced it
was worse.
Was so much worse.
Yeah, Egypt is going the same way.
Yeah, and they really feel like, if you speak to my dad and his generation, they feel like they failed. They tried to stop this despot from ruling their really cool, funky country.
Yeah.
And actually the upshot is that now they live in like a fascist religious dictatorship. So
maybe Philippines has gone that way.
Yeah,
There's a lot of countries that are like, I don't think he can beat himself up over it because they're right in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? You're right to get rid of Imelda Marcos and you know, the Shah of Iran, all these guys, and the guy in Mubarak and all these, you know, get rid of them, but and then elect. But you know, when it gets elected, well, we don't like that. Well, it's tough you elected. Can you get rid of it? So anyway, enough about Middle Eastern politics. Not what we're here for. But so you grew up in London?
Yeah. No, I grew up in Devon.
Devon. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Devon.
You don't have an or. I would have thought you might have a little accent there.
Yeah, I probably do a bit if I get around other people from
round here or from round
right,
here.
mate, how you doing? Don't go down there.
Let's do the rest of the podcast in this.
I told you not to come here. Yeah.
So what was that like? Very pastoral and...
Yeah, that was the seaside. I was in Torbay.
What was your old man doing out there that had you out there?
He was just being an accountant, and I think they moved there because my grandmother was brought up and lived there her whole life. Actually going to her 90th birthday this weekend. Yeah, I think they sort of moved there to sort of make a bit of a family pad. So I grew up by the sea, and it was a real mixed bag because it's a beautiful place.
Very sheltered.
But really sheltered.
Yeah.
And like...
It's like Ireland.
Like, I mean, I was like so different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I just didn't ever... I had lots of friends and everything was cool, but at the same time I had lots of like angst because I just never really got...
Where did the angst come from?
Just from like...
knowing there was something else and you weren't a part of it. FOMO, as we call it.
Yeah. Definitely FOMO. But also just like... Turns out I'm really Iranian. And once... Because when I went to Iran, everyone was like, wow, you're really Iranian. I thought, yeah, I really thought that. Because I didn't grow up around many Iranians, but I always felt it. And so Iranians would be kind of like, oh, come into my house, let me give you loads of food, or a cuddle, you know, that kind of thing. And so I was kind of like that when I was a kid. And all the kids down in Payton were like, fucking dick. So I never
So you mean you were nice?
I basically quite... I was nice, but then, you know, a bit needy.
Then
well, I don't know, you know, it's like...
When did you first get into music, or how did that happen?
I got into music... There were like my three memories. There was the neighbour. This sounds dodgy now. I went into his attic when I was really little, and he had this vintage electric guitar with this crazy like tremolo. So you could... Mr.
Herbert, was it?
Yeah. You could play the... Put your head in my pocket. There's a little popsicle for you. And
they're very strong.
Yeah, you have three of these and you can't do any more chat. And
so he was an ex-muso?
I don't know who this guy was. I can't remember what he was called now. I think he might have been called Paul something. Anyway, but you could... But the point I was going to make was you could strum the strings without having to fret anything, and then you push this little tremolo mechanism on the back and it make the strings kind of like go in and out of tune. And so that was really satisfying. And I remember thinking, oh, that's really, really cool. And it was like this kind of like cherry red guitar, but kind of like the one sat in this room now. So there was that. Then there was my uncle, my mother's brother, Nigel, who's just this awesome, cool motorcycle maintenance, like mega dude, hippie guitar player. And he would just play guitar, and I just sort of fell in love with it through him. Right. And then...
What was your mother's background?
Mum, born in Wales, grew up there, and then moved to Southampton. And then my dad pretty much snapped her up when she was 18. And then they were off to Iran and stuff, so yeah. But she actually, I spied some guitars in a window down the road. And I was like, Mum, they've got guitars. And so she knocked on this old man's door, Mr. Lawman. And he was my first guitar teacher, so just down the road from where he lived. So yeah, so it kind of like, it came together. So I was 8 when I started playing guitar.
Really? Do you believe the 10,000 hours thing, that the earlier you start with guitar, the better you will?
Yeah. Well, being a teacher now, like it's...
So yeah, you teach guitar. Let's get that out of there. Where do you teach and who do you teach?
So I teach down in a private school just off the King's Road, and also in people's homes and stuff. I do about 3.5 days a week.
So did you go to college after you finished? When did you leave?
I left when I was... The West Country. Yeah, I left when I was 19. Went travelling for a bit. But yeah, 19 I went to London. So I'd done college, I'd done A-levels and music A-levels, and then went to the University of Westminster in London and did commercial music.
That's where our Venn diagram meets, I'm
yeah.
afraid. Did you have a band when you were a teenager? Like, were you singing and writing? Or anything like that?
Yeah, we did. And we had one of the...
Give us the name, because I've got...
It was Vel. Vel, which means welcome in some...
Polish
Eastern European or something language, yeah. My best mate Nick was on drums, and then there was Ollie, who was like the local star. He was sort of like tipped for big things, and he had his dad, who ended up being our manager. It was sort of like this strange... If you were going to write like a sitcom about a band of teenagers managed by one of their dads, all the tropes you could probably imagine.
Big creme brulee.
Yeah. It was very
shit business.
Yeah. It was, yeah. I mean, like I was watching that the other day, and I thought I still might end up being that guy.
It's so sad. And what sort of music were Vel playing?
Vel was playing covers of like the Stereophonics and the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Lenny Kravitz and that kind of stuff. And then we were writing our own kind of like indie anthemic tunes and stuff like that.
Did you get bitten though then at that stage? Was that I'm going to be a musician?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That
was cool to know that.
You know what, actually I got bitten literally a few months after I started playing the guitar when I was 8. The primary school I went in had no music stuff going on. I always end up finding myself in the music room on my own for some reason, not doing anything. Didn't even have like proper music lessons. But one of the teachers encouraged me to just go and do a little show and tell, but to like the whole school in assembly, and play a couple of chords that I'd learned. And so I sat down, and the whole school was there, and I literally played D and A like 3 or 4 times with a little rhythm I'd come up with.
On an electric guitar?
No, just on a little classical guitar.
Right.
And the school just erupted.
Really?
In like applause.
Okay.
And I was just kind of like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, okay, I'll do this now then.
This is like in Devon.
Yeah.
Never seen this weird
he turned
Satan's music arrived at school today.
He just sat down with that pointy thing, and then all of a sudden like noise came out. We went crazy. It was insane, and I really enjoyed playing to them. And I got the adrenaline rush. And
do you still get that?
Yeah. And if I play a gig now and I don't have any adrenaline or nerves, I've learned to control the adrenaline to a certain extent, which is good because it means I don't spend the day like with a dry mouth and wobbly knees. Like I just feel like a slow surging of energy coming up, and then when showtime kicks in, I've got like it's all there, and it's not over the top. My hands aren't going to cramp. I'm not going to like jump off the stage. It's all contained but quite powerful. Like it's taken me a long time to get there. Every now and then you play a gig and you don't have anything, and those are the ones when I shit it. Yeah, because I'm like
that will be the spliff you had an hour before.
Those kind of things. There's not really, especially with the kind of music that Axis plays, which is kind of really frenetic, crazy, changing technical rock. It's so like you're so amped up just playing it. And you also, a lot of it's muscle memory now, what with having played it for so long. Yeah. But you still need to be in control. You get too high or too pissed, and it's just a nightmare, really. So.
Good time to talk about, to play your first track for us.
Cool. Well, I'll introduce you to the first track on our second album, which is called The One. I wrote the initial idea for this track and just sent it to the other guys going like, I think I've written the one that sums up what we are now. And they were all like, yeah, it's wicked. And then we all worked on it. And when we all work on things, it obviously changes heavily and everyone puts their input in. But yeah, so this is the one, the first track on Glory.
Okay, that was the one. So, Axe's, the first thing I want to say to you is, how the fuck had no one taken that name before?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Like,
really don't know.
I was like, they were called Axes, and it's like three guitarists. It's like, what?
Absolutely no idea. Don't know how that's happened.
When did the band set up, and how did it set up, first of all?
Started, I always think it's less than it is, but I think it might be 7 years ago. So we all knew each other in one way or another. Stacey, the bass player, and Paul played in a hardcore band called Black Tax. My old band, Optimist Club, this is early 2000s, played like hardcore, kind of like post-hardcore, like punk. We did tons of shows together. Then Paul was the sound engineer for a band called the King Blues, and Al was the drummer. So that's how they met. And then we were all in sort of various things for a few years. And then I was in this kind of pop rock band that nearly happened but didn't, and was kind of trying to be like Arcade Fire.
Yeah.
But ultimately we all kind of had our heads in the wrong places. So that sort of folded, and then Paul instantly just said, right,
You and you.
you're coming with me. Yeah.
Right.
And put Axes
How many
together.
bands had you been in since Vel?
1, 2, including Val, is that Optimist Club for like 6 years, and then So. Yeah, I pretty much always stuck in like a big proper project and like saw it through either like kind of like the great days or it all sort of falling apart.
Like, was it in a smoky bar that you all said, why don't, look, here's what we're going to do?
Yeah, it was, what was it? No, Paul had been talking to me for
So
ages.
Paul Russell is the
Paul
guy,
Russell,
he's a Glaswegian, right?
Yeah,
He's
sort of.
he's Scottish anyway.
I mean, he was literally born and grew up right between the two, so he can take his pick.
Right, and he's a bit of a renaissance. He dabbles in everything, and you do as well. In fairness, we'll talk about your production maybe a little bit later.
Yeah,
but you're all just.
So Paul is just an amazing front of house sound engineer as a day job, but like the kind of front of house sound engineer that does like huge mega gigs and festivals, and people queue up at the end of gigs. Mainly, obviously, other techie people to go. Yeah. How did you do that?
Wow, okay.
I've never heard this venue, this really famous venue, or this stage at this festival sound that good. How do you do it? Like
he's what, Glastonbury and all these kind of things.
Like anything you can think of. Yeah, so that's his day job. But then on top of that, he's this awesome, amazing guitar player, absolutely brilliant composer, and he's written electronic music, like kind of like glitch, kind of like crazy sort of breakcore stuff, and then he's written all the Axes stuff, the hardcore stuff, and now he's doing Human Pyramids, one of the bands that I play in now, which
talk
is
about them
crazy modern ensemble with strings and horns and a rock band in the middle. He's just got this like relentless energy and drive, and obviously like loads of talent, but yeah, just an amazing guy to be around most of the time, and we're like bestest brotherly.
Yeah, so you've had a good 10 years or whatever, 7 years or whatever together.
Yeah.
9 years. One of the other tracks when I was researching I quite liked, just because the fun you were all having, including the drummer, was Fleetwood Math.
Yeah.
Love the way that was shot. And you're just like, and it's like this sort of music, you mentioned Arcade Fire, I mentioned before we pressed play, because I'm a bit older than you, there was echoes of a lot of Mike Oldfield, when Mike Oldfield made a lot of shit, but like Tubular Bells and stuff. Some really, really good, uplifting crescendos. Some of the reviews talk about both Axes and the Human Pyramids as being like showered with Skittles or Smarties or whatever, and they're fireworks. But I mean, that's rare. I mean, it's hard to get that kind of. I was saying it would be, it's almost like when Arcade Fire first arrived, and they were kind of young and panicky about their success, and they were on stage sweating. Your man was sweating himself stupid, but they were all the sort of euphoria and joy that they had about them. It's really hard to capture. You guys have got that in a lot of your stuff.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, that's like really cool to hear, because that's what we aim for in both those bands, is that euphoria. And the problem with like euphoric music or uplifting music or even like happy music is that it's really hard to do without it coming across. Well, it can so easily go wrong. It can feel forced, it can feel contrived, it can feel like cheesy.
Yeah.
And that is not something that either of those bands ever sound like.
So this Fleetwood Math, so the math pop, tell me what that is, because I didn't know what the hell that was.
Right, okay. So when we started that band, so we came out of being in really like hardcore, really aggressive, really aggressive bands. Not euphoric, but
punk,
visceral and like punk. We got together and made Axes, and we just said we need to make something that doesn't take into account what anybody wants. We're just going to make what the four of us want to make, because it would probably be awesome if we get in a room and do something. Like, we were just confident that we would have a really good time, and we had like no agenda. We didn't want to like get signed. We didn't even want to like play loads of gigs. We didn't even want to like record some big album.
It was a labour of love.
We were just like, let's just do it. We've all been playing in loads of bands for years and doing our thing. Like, we just need to get in a room and like have some good fun again. Like, I definitely lost my excitement about being in a band after being in that pop band for a while. It was just kind of like, it was just all the music industry and the kind of trough of shite that Steve.
So the music industry was collapsing around you as
well.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks to Steve Jobs.
Yeah. This is the fucking crazy thing, man. Like I said, I got to uni and went to commercial music, and the first thing that they kind of said was, right, we're going to teach you all this stuff, but like broadband's just kicked in and Napster's happening.
Yeah.
So the entire paradigm is going to change, and we don't know where it's going to go, but everything's going to get turned on its head. Yeah. And so everything we're going to teach you is kind of relevant in principle, but will actually like kind of go out of the window. And we were like, oh right, so this is going to be like totally mental then. Yeah. And then it was,
there's no money in music anymore.
There's no money, and we don't even know how you could make some if there wasn't.
Yeah. It was funny the way Metallica went after Napster. I mean, Metallica fucking knew this.
I thought
we were all like, leave Napster alone. They're fine. We're buying your shit. And Metallica went, fuck no way. And they went after them. They closed them down actually.
Yeah.
Something else whack-a-mole's up, but I
remember that, and I just remember thinking like, what mindset is a band like that in, where they do that, where they don't just go like, okay, things are changing, like we're one of the biggest bands ever, we'll probably be all right, let's figure it out. If anything, let's be a part of the change. No, they just went, no.
They probably had some fucking lawyer who just fucking saw it. I mean, I can't see.
Have you seen Some Kind of Monster?
No, that's the doco, is it?
Yeah. So my best answer to why they did that is, if you watch that documentary, they got successful so early on and got whipped into this like world stardom and believed in their own hype that they stayed children. And if you watch that documentary, you're watching like
14-year-olds.
Yeah, 14-year-olds. The way they talk.
Okay, so it's kind of right.
Yeah. So they kind of So it kind of makes sense that they would throw their toys out the pram when things change. But
so anyway, you were taking all these influences,
and so we were all a bit knackered, but kind of excited about working together. And then we just started making this music, and because of some of the technical aspects of all the music we made in the past, what would be perceived as like math rock came out. So people started to say it was like the math rock band, because basically
explain to my listeners what math rock means.
So basically, math rock is mainly instrumental, mostly guitar led, occasionally with some synths, but mostly guitar led rock music. Very technical, chops and changes through time signatures, tempos, often a bit through composed, in that like it will start somewhere, end somewhere else, and it maybe doesn't keep referencing itself all the way through. You don't get verses and choruses necessarily, you get like a journey. And there's always been like little splinter bands that encompass those things I just described in the UK. But then there was this big deal when Battles, a band from the States, got signed to Warp Records over here. They got pushed, and then it just pushed a little bit more into the, I wouldn't say the mainstream, but the sort of like larger end of the alternative scene. So, and then like a few years later, Axes were around, and so obviously like massive thing to do with like being successful is just timing, isn't it? And once we played our first gig, we got signed within 6 gigs. Right. And then the following summer there was a festival which has now been going about 5 years or so, called Arctangent Festival down in Bristol. Really nice, kind of 4,000, 5,000 people, all for those kind of bands, getting bands from the US that were cool, but putting a lot of energy into UK bands who were like that. It was great timing. We just kind of made that band. There were some other people had been doing some stuff that you could kind of link with us.
Yeah.
There was some guys willing to put themselves on the line and put a big festival together, or small festival together, and so it all kind of like came together. And
you were on the wave.
Yeah, we were exactly on the wave. Yeah.
The music is. Let's play another track while we're on Axes. It is all instrumental primarily, right? There's some human voice, but there's no lyrics.
Right? Axes, there's like maybe one.
Right. Okay.
On both.
But it's kind of the stuff I will look at more because I was quite taken by it. When you first met, did you feel the chemistry that you guys clearly have?
The first time anything was ever felt was in this room that we're in now.
Really? It's tiny.
Yeah. We weren't rehearsing, but Paul was just showing me a few of they demoed a couple of little ideas just ahead of our first rehearsal. And so Paul used to live here in my house where we are now. And the room we're in now, which is my little studio, was his little studio.
Right.
And I'd come round to just try out a few guitar things. And so we were jamming in here just on electric guitars. And then Al, the drummer, lived here as well. And he popped his head in and was like, that sounds fucking awesome.
Right.
This rehearsal's going to be great. So we had that little clicking moment. And then we went into the rehearsal the following week and Stacey was there. And it was just like probably an hour in. It was just the whole mega vibe, like looking at each other, just going like, this is so special.
Yeah, you look like you don't want to stop, which is kind of cool. Like, sometimes you see that on live gigs where the band just keep going and it's like they hit some vein and they just kind of, we got to go again. It's like half an hour later and you're still going. Going mad, right? And how old were you when you started, all of you? Like in your late 20s or mid 20s?
What, Axes?
Yeah.
Late 20s. I'm 34 now, so 20. Yeah,
mid 20s,
27. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's hear the second Axes track.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna play you the title track of the album Glory. This is one that I think sums up that euphoria that we were talking about,
right?
And just has a genuinely awesome vibe.
This is Glory. Okay, so that was Glory. Have you ever come up with some really great fucking Radiohead exit, boring, dull, wrist opening but brilliant tracks and gone, fuck, if only we weren't Axes, we could do that? Like, do you have a... Sorry, that's not our sound.
Yeah. No, completely. And so Paul and I both took new ideas to the band. And we took ideas in that we were kind of like, right, well, this could be a new EP or a new album. And it didn't really stick, because we can't, like, the second album that we made with Axes, Glory, that sums up what Axes is. And we were like, we can't just make another one like that. We've got it in us to do it, but what's the point? Like, we nailed it. Like, let's push ourselves. So Paul and I came up with these things. And it didn't really stick with the guys. And so we, Axes at the moment, we're kind of like, we still gig and some pretty cool things coming up. Our show in Christmas is sold out already, which is really cool. Those ideas weren't really right for Axes, and so some of them became Human Pyramids, which is obviously pretty euphoric and uplifting still anyway. But the stuff that I've gone on to do, making like electronic music, that is darker and sleazy, more sleazy, darker. Are
you going under your own name on that?
No, so the stuff I do, sort of electronic music wise, is called under the name Brutal Deluxe.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I've nearly finished what will be the first EP. And then I've got to start showing it to people. And then when I start showing it to people, that depends on how that goes. Because if everyone goes, oh my God, you captured the zeitgeist, then hopefully it'll come out on a cool label and off I go.
It's funny the way, like, I write and stuff, and also when I was in advertising, even when you'd make an ad that you thought was really... Because obviously most ads are shit, but like sometimes you do something fucking good and you go, that's why we're in the business. So like stuff that you'd like, John Lewis or whatever, when the world turns itself upside down waiting to see it. Yeah. But you never really know. It's good and it's the best you could do. But sometimes I've put stuff out that I thought, I think that's okay, and that's caught fire.
That's really caught fire, yeah.
And then the problem I've had, I was saying to an interview I had today with an artist, is knowing when to stop fucking around with it. I find that really hard. Like, just like someone will say, oh, what about that? And you kind of, particularly for my business where you have an approvals process, you kind of go, oh yeah, he has a point, or she has a point, or maybe I should...
Yeah, once you start letting...
then your fucking wheels fall off.
Once you start letting
quick.
Other people get in and you get the whole committee vibe going, that's dangerous ground. Now, what's that like in advertising? Is it like that? Is that right?
The whole of advertising. That's why ads are shit. Because someone goes, well, what about if there's why is the father serving the food? Really, mothers should serve the dad should be driving the car. And not only that, we go out to postmen and women and people who work in office jobs who don't have anything to do with that. I was like, do you think that's a good ad?
Yeah, right.
No, it's not. They just go, well, a beer ad should have birds with it, and they, oh, for God's sake, what cacac?
Yeah.
Where's the product? Just tell me what it does and how much it costs. And that's what you get. You go, why are all the ads shit?
Yeah.
I mean, if you could imagine going out with your music to a focus group of people who know nothing about music.
Yeah.
Any good like that?
Do you like
what do you think?
Yeah. How's that for you?
How's that? The guitar's good.
Yeah. It's really weird. It's really, really weird with music. Like, you need to take risks. You need to be slightly arrogant that your idea is really, really good and just kind of get on with it and do it. However, I am now making what is effectively dance music. So if people don't nod their heads and dance and if they don't hear the production and go, oh, that sounds so fucking cool. Like, say with Axes, like, you've said some really cool things about it, which I agree with, but I can go on stage with the rest of Axes and play this really loud rock show and then walk off. And it doesn't really, matter what the audience was doing if I just wanted to be in a band, because I go on and I make loads of noise and then I go off again. But when you're, producing electronic music, you're trying to say to people, this is the vibe. This is what you're going to get down to. You're going to nod your head to this. You're going to feel good when you hear this. You're going to want to hear it again.
Well, you're also drifting into DJs. Territory.
And you drift.
And it's one guy, and oh fuck, no one's dancing.
And so I am acutely aware that my music is like I'm making music that serves a certain purpose now, so I can't be too much of a kind of like, oh well, I think it's great, you know. Like I do need some people.
Is it fair that you've like? I mean, one of the interesting things about your career and your band, the bands that you've worked with, is that you kind of arrived basically after the money for Jam was gone. So like you're. It's never been a better time to get your stuff heard if it's good. No. But to get a coin for it is very difficult.
Yeah, right? It's really, really fucking difficult. But that's why I have a day job. That's why I made this decision about halfway through my career. I just thought I'd always kind of justified not working that much so I could have loads of time to do music, and I didn't want to like kind of give in and have a job and all that kind of shit. And then I was like, you know what? Like, this is fucking tough. I'm passionate about making pretty alternative, far out music. People fucking love it when they hear it. But like, it's not, you know, not Coldplay. I'd like to have a flat and a girlfriend and like go out for dinner and go on holidays and like buy cool equipment. So what I'll do is I'll have a job. And then like I have a job that's flexible and pays pretty good.
No, you're fucking dead right. I'm the same. Yeah. I don't live a ostentatious life, and I've kind of quit advertising. I don't have enough money to get me to the end, but one of my friends said to me, "You're the only guy I know whose financial planning is predicated on an early death." Grand. So that's be
actually,
it.
Yeah, that's so not actually far off my.
There was actually a really good death knell, I think, because there was that just unfortunately Coldplay were in there as well, but there was just this Mezzanine, Massive Attack, Radiohead, kind kind of Kasabian, White Stripes.
I love how your voice just goes.
I know, but like they were like, you know, and Metallica were better, and it was just that I suppose early 2000s.
Yeah.
There was just couple of years where there was like Arctic Monkeys. There was a great sound came out, and then it was over.
Yeah,
over.
It was like the death was like all this coolness, and then just kind of like and
now here comes whoever.
And if there's one
Kardashians,
here comes
Nicki Minaj.
It was kind of like vibrant and cool, but that was actually kind of the death, wasn't it? Like that was that bit where it all just kind of not the death.
And the time when
I get
Radiohead said you can pay us what you want.
Yeah,
that was probably
but
okay. Thanks, free.
Nice one, cool. See what you're doing there.
You wouldn't take my credit card, Tom. Wouldn't take my credit card. So let's talk about you going back on track. The Axes produced 2 albums, and you felt you were talking about the idea of trying to bring new directions to the band, but you feel that this is your kind of noise. This is your sound, yeah?
Yeah, I think like.
So you're kind of on hiatus from Axes, and then other projects.
Axes are playing live every few months, doing kind of cool festivals or gigs and things that come up. We're not trying to write any new material, but in no way is it kind of like ruled out, like it's not over. I'm sure there'll be a time when we all kind of get the little itch and get excited, but it just has to happen naturally, like the first couple of albums. Like trying to force it is just, you always know that trying to force it doesn't work. But if you're in a cool thing, you always try and give it a force.
Well, at least you're not under contract from some record company,
flogging you. Yeah. So
that's where people fall out.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So tell me then, let's before we finish, move into the human pyramids. Paul, you told me earlier, this dynamic guy wants to do lots of things. Yeah. He came up with this sort of thought of it. So what is it? It's an orchestral ensemble rock thing.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, with lots of hand gestures like you were just doing. Yeah. No, Paul was just making this album for like 3 years. Going, I'm making my album. We're all just going like, and he was getting people to come in and do different parts and stuff like that. And you'd hear little shots of it, and you'd be like, "This is just fucking mad. What is it?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know," but it had like song structures and things, and it just came together. And I remember he kept going off to Scotland to like be in a shack and like mix it.
These were his Paul McCartney on the farm with Denny Lane and his wife years.
There you go.
Right. Did you grow a big beard?
And now he's got a bit fat. But,
so the cracks in the band begin to appear.
I can say that now because he's looking well fit. But Yeah, and
that's
so,
Scotland, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you go to Scotland.
Yeah. Have you ever
There's
had
just too many deep fried Mars
have you had a
bars.
buttery?
I don't care.
Buttery is lard covered in pastry, folded over, cover it again in pastry, another layer of lard, fold that over, deep fry it. It's
And eat it around a Mars bar.
Yeah. Little pizza. So he was doing this album. He finally finished it.
This is Planet Shush, is it?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. He didn't go into it in a contrived, oh my God, I'm going to get loads of publishing from this way. Like, he went into it out of a place of loving it.
Yeah.
But it did really well because of the kind of music it is. And,
So when you say publishing, that's
yeah, so in terms of it getting like syncs for kind of
match of the day, use it for
Yeah,
their
yeah,
goals
yeah,
of the
yeah.
season. Yeah,
Like,
I was
yeah,
thinking about that,
yeah.
about some of the songs. But Arcade Fire got that as well.
Yeah.
It's that kind of, it's
Yeah.
happy, it's upbeat.
Yeah. The biggest
Fireworks.
thing, yeah, exactly. Yeah, fireworks. And the biggest thing that he got was a big Coca-Cola advert, but yeah, out in the Middle East. And we were like, ooh, you know,
Sell out.
And he was like, oh, fuck you, mate.
I'm from Scotland.
Yeah.
That was probably why you got that. No, but like, you know, that's just to stop on that's, you know, this again, as we said earlier, is where the Venn diagrams of my career and yours meet.
Yeah.
And it's like advertising just rapes and pillages ideas, artists, copies them, rips them off. If it's not Coke, it's Mars bars, and if it's not them, it's razors or beers or whatever. So the only way I think you get sellout potential is if you're, you know, Bono and you've already made squillions or whatever, and you're giving it to,
and you
you
just
know,
kind of like,
if you're a struggling band that have
lining
written a
your
piece of
pocket
work
with
that
a
Coke
bit
want to
more
use,
fucking
up the ante, because they want it and they'll pay for it.
Yeah, I just think like it's about where your intention lies. If you like make music because that's what you love and you're passionate about it and you're excited about it and you get up in the morning because you want to do it, and then if you end up making some money on the side off it, wicked.
Yeah.
Because no one is going to give you any money. The government's not going to give you any subsidies to go and make an album or put on some shows.
But it's funny, the music that I have listened of yours, I did have a little bit of a kind of a flashback to my ad career. You know, that's gone, this stuff is, you know what I mean? And it's not contrived. It didn't feel contrived. So he came back with this album, and the video I watched for Crackle Pop, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
It was just amazing. So there's a video, there's a link to it on the blurb on YouTube called Crackle Pop by Human Pyramids, and it's sort of a virtual reality 360 beautiful video, just with all of this kind of mayhem and fireworks and colours going off, but really great stuff, and really kind of, you just want to keep playing.
It's really cool, and there's a cool little story behind that video. So first of all, we worked with John Lynch, who is like the sort of unofficial fifth member of Axis and does a lot of our photography and videos and things like that. And actually, that's our album cover behind us with all of us on horses.
It's
and
like,
so he took that
Cheyenne
shot. Yeah. So what he did was to get a load of people with synesthesia. And if people don't know what synesthesia is, it's where you perceive
music as colour.
Yeah. And he got a load of people with synesthesia to listen to Crackle Pop and explain what they saw, how they experienced that song. And then the animations you see in that 360 video are representations of what those people
I love the drum.
said. It's great, isn't it? And then so John shot us against a green screen, and then he also shot a space, which I can't remember what theatre it was, and then superimposed everyone into the theatre plus the synesthesia animation. But it's wicked, isn't it? It's really good fun to watch. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
We're talking as Human Pyramids have just released their second album called Home. There's a link to how to buy that, and I would urge you all to take a look at it. So for the time being, Axis and Human Pyramids and whatever you're having yourself and whatever Paul's having himself will continue as it. You're these musicians who have this liquidity about you that can go. Great. So before we finish, what about your, you know, we talked about, it's been a bit of a crazy interview. Iran at the start and this upbeat music that you guys make. Where do you see what's your view on the world now? Like, just going back to maybe the start of the podcast, do you feel that your music has got to be a antidote to glum faces in the world, or do you feel?
Yeah, I actually do. Yeah, I do. I won't go into it massively in depth, but in my times when I'm not doing loads of music, I do comedy. And I started off doing a bit of stand-up.
I used to do stand-up.
Oh, wicked.
My joke is I used to do stand-up comedy until everyone told me to sit down. That's the only good joke I wrote. I probably didn't even write that joke.
Yeah, it probably wasn't even mine.
I think I did.
But I said it every time, yeah. Yeah, and then I started doing these started doing more like character-based comedy. And what I realised with the character-based comedy is it's all fed into the stuff I'm doing now with the like Brutal Deluxe, like electronic music and stuff like that, is that people buy into a world, and I think like they like the idea that you make a world and they can step into it. And Axes and Human Pyramids are definitely like that. That's like saying like, here's a world with this kind of music and this kind of like joy, and you can step in. And then so with like Brutal Deluxe and stuff that I'm making, like that's how I'm approaching it. I'm like creating a world for people to step into. And the world that I want people to step into is an awesome, sleazy, sexy, like fantasy to have a great time in. So yes, in answer to your question, that's my response to what's going on in the world right now. Because actually, I don't. Well, I mean, that's just what I'm doing naturally. It's not like
Did you read Ready Player One, the book?
No.
There's a movie coming out of it. It's basically about we all end up living in fucking shithole slums, and we just plug into a matrix all day. Outside, we have to come out and have a cup of tea of some stale bread, and we go back into this thing, and for all intents and purposes we live. So kind of like an avataristic, like in sort of Inception kind of. Yeah, a little bit like that, but much more kind of everyone's doing it. You go to school there. You go to the whole thing.
Okay, so that is just
and the whole world outside. The real world is just absolutely fucked. You live an avataristic life, and it's whoever you want to be. You can be, whatever sex you want to be, whatever. But yeah, this world is what's to stop us getting to that place? Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I like to think that I get off on creating that world and taking it within the context of the actual world, i.e. you'll go to a club and Brutal Deluxe will happen while you're in the club. Yeah. So you're going to be dancing, there's going to be music, there's going to be lights, there's going to be actual people. It sounds like you could do everything. You could have a little comedy act beforehand. You're an old-fashioned impresario. Yeah. I was like, go on in, make everyone an old-fashioned. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just one person at a time. Yeah. And it's a conveyor belt. Come out like kind of a ghost train. Yeah. A slow ghost train where you come out the other end and go, that was interesting. Yeah. That's a metaphor for my career. A slow ghost train. Come back again, sir. Then you got to run around to the staff and go, would you like an old-fashioned? Sorry, we're going off. Let's finish with another song. So cool. Let's play one of Human Pyramids. Let's play Crackle Pop. Crackle Pop is the first Human Pyramids song that I've heard. It won't be the last. Jeion, thank you for coming on A Pint with Seaniebee. It was great crack. I love that interview. Thank you for the drink. And the best of luck with the career, and best of luck with both bands. And thanks, man. It was good. This is Crackle Pop. Nice one.